So it's getting warm outside, and it's the perfect time now for picnics or to eat outdoors. And I have the perfect dessert for you because it's portable, it's simple, it's easy to make, and you can pack this little gem full of flavor, and that's a pound cake. It's so easy. You slice it, bite into it, and you're done. I'm going to show you one of my favorite pound cakes. So you all know two of my most favorite flavors are chocolate and lemon. And today we're going to make a lemon pound cake right here on the Sweet Spot. So the first step to making our pound cake, which if you've been watching my videos, you already know, we're going to grab the flour and pre-mix all of our dry ingredients. So to that flour, we're going to add our baking powder and our salt. And just taking a spatula, we're just going to make sure that's all blended together before we add it into our mixer, which we're going to add it in a little bit later. First thing we need to do is cream our butter and sugar. Now, my process is to first whip out the butter. I like it nice and smooth. So I'm going to take my 2 sticks of butter here and add them to my mixing bowl. I'm going to mix them on medium until they're nice and smooth. It doesn't take a long time. If your butter's truly at room temperature, you really want to make sure that butter's at room temperature. If it's too cold, it's going to still clump. If it's at that perfect room temperature, it's going to smooth out in no time. 30 seconds to a minute at the most should take for your butter to smooth out. So my butter's nice and smooth. It took no time at all. I'm going to scrape down the sides of my bowl. You really want to scrape down and get all of that butter into the center so that your sugar really incorporates into it. So I'm just going to take one last scrape and get all of that butter into the center of my bowl here. Stubborn, don't want to come off. Put my spatula aside. And now it's time to add your sugar to your butter. All right, just get all of that sugar in there, and then we're gonna mix this on medium until the sugar and butter are well combined. So that's all combined. We're gonna scrape down the sides of our bowl just to make sure we get all of that down into the bottom of the bowl before we add in our next ingredients so that all of our ingredients fully incorporate and combine. All right, so I have my side scraped down, and we're gonna move on and add in our eggs. I'm gonna add all of my eggs at one time. I don't have that many, so I'm just gonna add them all in and just mix that on medium. So my next ingredient I'm gonna add in my sour cream and just get that into the bowl. In addition, I'm gonna add my lemon juice and my vanilla and our special ingredient, all of that lemon zest. And make sure you get all of it right into that batter. All right. And we're gonna mix this on medium until this is all nice and combined together. Okay, so that's done. I'm gonna give my bowl a little scrape. Just note, at this stage, you may see the butter separate a little bit. That's very common. When you add any citrus or acidic juice or extract to your mixture, you can see that butter separate. Once we start adding in our flour, it's gonna come together beautifully, which is our next step. So let's start adding in our flour. I'm gonna add in about half at a time and just let that incorporate into that wet mixture. Add my remaining before we move on to our next step. So all of my flour has been incorporated into my batter. I'm gonna do one last scrape down on the sides of my bowl. And then our last ingredient to add in will be our milk. And we can start filling our loaf pan and get this baby in the oven. All right, let's add in our milk and just pour it all in at once. And we're gonna mix this on medium until it's smooth, incorporated, and ready for our loaf pan. I've removed my mixing bowl from my mixer, and I'm just gonna scrape down the sides of the bowl and really just give it one last mix to make sure everything that's on the bottom has been mixed in. Also, just another tip. I've noticed when using lemon zest or anything that has that sort of fiber texture, and you're using a paddle attachment, they tend to really connect and kind of twirl around the paddle, if you will. So take your spatula and really work all of that off of your paddle before you take it off the mixer, because that's some valuable lemon zest left on that paddle. And you wanna make sure you get it all in your pound cake. So my cake's nice and mixed together here. And I am going to spoon my pound cake into my loaf pan. You can pour it in, you can take a spatula. I like to spoon it in. It's my process. I just find it's a little easier, and I feel like I get it right into that pan, but do whatever works for you. My loaf pan is completely filled, as you can see, with all of that delicious lemon pound cake batter. Now you're gonna put this in the 350-degree oven for 50 to 60 minutes. I always set my timer for the lower time and then check to make sure it's baked, and then bake it in like 5-minute increments after that, because I don't want it to overbake. Also, another tip, if you find that the top of your pound cake is starting to brown faster, just tent it with a piece of foil to stop that browning process. The cake will continue to bake. So I'm gonna get this in the oven so that we can see how it turns out. My lemon pound cake is out of the oven. It's now time to make that beautiful glaze. But look at that cake. Oh, such a great bake on that. It smells amazing. So I'm ready to get a glaze on top of it so we can cut into it. So I have my confectioner sugar here first. Then I'm gonna add my lemon juice to it. So you wanna take about 2 tablespoons of lemon juice into it. If you want a little bit more lemon flavor in your glaze, you can add 3. I'm just gonna add another one for good measure. Then I'm going to add my vanilla extract and just a tablespoon of cream to get it all nice and smooth. So I'm going to mix that to see what consistency it comes out. If it's a little too thick, I'll add more cream. I won't add more lemon juice because I don't want it overly tart. And then I'm just gonna whisk slowly. I don't want the confectioner sugar to go everywhere. I can already tell it's gonna be a little thick, so I do need a little bit more moisture in my glaze. So that's where I go back to my heavy cream and add another tablespoon just to loosen it up a bit. All right, so that one is going, and just keep whisking until you get a nice smooth glaze. So you can thin the glaze out and let it just ooze all over the sides of the cake. I like a little bit of a thicker glaze on this pound cake, almost like an icing, if you will. I do need a little bit more cream, so I'm just gonna pour the remaining cream in there. Because you can see the recipe calls for 2 to 3 tablespoons of cream, 2 to 3 tablespoons of lemon juice. It's all about your preference. That's what I love about a glaze. You get to really design how thick you want it, how tart or how sweet you want it. So yeah, that's just about the consistency I want. You can see it's nice and thick. So now I'm gonna take this and put over my cake. And using a tablespoon, I'm just gonna spoon the glaze right over the top, but I want it very, very thick. So I'm putting it up the middle and encouraging it to go to both sides, because I don't want it to fall too far over the sides. I want mainly that glaze to stay on top of my pound cake. You can use a knife if you feel it's better. Spoon works well. It just encourages that glaze to really fall right over top of that cake. All right, so I'm gonna let the glaze do what it does and set up. I normally let it sit about 20 to 30 minutes so the glaze has time to firm and really just do what it's going to do, because it's gonna go where it wants to go. Then I plate it and it's time to cut into it. Our cake is done. It's glazed, it's ready to slice. Oh, I can't wait to cut into this lemon pound cake. Let's cut us a slice. Oh, I love the crunch that you get from the crust. Ah, there you have it, a beautiful slice of lemon pound cake. If you like this video, hit like, subscribe, come back and see me. I have so much more to show you right here on The Sweet Spot.